savoir mettre des limites. Dans les plaisanteries, dans le travail même, il faut avoir des barrières en fait, sécuriser son environnement, c'est tout ça, physique et émotionnel.
Tous ces diplômes qui se promènent de partout et que vous devez faire la différence parmi toutes ces personnes, il faut que vous ayez une valeur ajoutée. C'est ça qu'il s'agit.
Insisting that you must be a logistic officer, then you're missing your dream. You need to look at your CV. After this meeting, come to me, bring your CV, bring your mission statement to me, and let's talk about the branding.
We have is not what it seems. We are the vices waiting for the virtues. We're not kings, we are not kings. Gotta get out before my heart explodes. Gotta get out before my heart explodes.
Hello and welcome to the Corporate Women in Leadership Summit, Session 5. It's been a wonderful time in the last few weeks, and I am so excited to be hosting yet another powerful session today. The theme of today is investing in people. When you hear investing in people, you think about so many things, don't you? You think about your time, you think about your money, you think about your emotion, and you think about what is in it for you. What is in it for you when you invest in people? I've got two very interesting guests today, and the reason why they are the right people for this topic is because both have got a lot of experience in training and development. Sometimes in the corporate world, you think it is not necessary or that it is necessary, but then you need to find the why. It is okay for you to understand or to say that you want to be engaged in certain or so training initiative, but it is also very important for you to understand why and for you to understand how it aligns with the overall corporate objective, corporate vision. So all of these need to come together. Now you're at home most often and you're asking yourself, what kind of training can I access? Can I be trained? Is COVID-19 and people are stuck at home and you're asking yourself, I am a director or I do own a company. Should I train my employees? Should I not? We're going to be listening from these two experts. They're going to tell us why it is important or it is not important for you to invest in people at this time. The second half of our conversation today is going to be creating or building a strong team. Sometimes you invest in people because you want them to work alongside others, right? And in order for the team to be strong, there are certain things that you need to have in place. So we'll be listening just in a minute. So my guests for today are, I'm just going to pop up the banner so you see. I've got Rosalind Fonkwa Mujongi and Vimil Musieli. Rosalind will be checking in from London, UK, and Vimil will be checking in from South Africa. First, let me say happy birthday to you, Vimil. I think it's your birthday today. I'm so happy you decided to put aside all the things that you're supposed to be doing to give out. Today is your way of giving back to people, giving out all your knowledge, giving out what you've learned over your, more than 20 years in your career life. You're going to give back some of them today. So although it's your birthday, some people might have been somewhere relaxing, a spa or somewhere, but you've decided to come join us and then share your expertise. Let's see who she is, shall we? Vumi is the founder and CEO of HISEC Consulting, South African brand. She's also a player part ambassador, a contributing columnist at Bella Niger, resident career coach, world segment at Kaya FM, a contributing columnist at The Guardian Nigeria, recently a resident career coach at Duma FM Botswana. HISEC Consulting is a Pan-African organization that facilitates leadership, executive, strategic, and operational learning and development skills within a global context, and has a presence in Nigeria, Rwanda, Namibia, and of course, South Africa. Who else could have been the right person to join us today apart from Vumi? So we're so happy, Vumi, that you've decided to spend this time with us. And Rosalind is the managing director of Reline Care, which is a London-based company. The company provides social care services to people in need. She has a degree in business management, IT, level 5 leadership management. She's also an activist who raises awareness on sexual abuse and other forms of gender-based violence. Rosalind also is the founder of a non-governmental organization called Voice of Hope, based in UK and Cameroon. And you'll be pleased to know that she's also a movie producer. I mean, she's produced one of the best movies that I've watched from a Cameroonian producer. It is actually airing on Amazon Prime at the moment. So if you are like me, someone who loves watching their movies before they go to bed, please do make sure you check on Breach of Trust. So I'm going to pop up my guests. Fasten your seatbelt because you're going to be in for a really, really long ride. So let's go. Hello, Rosalind. I'm going to pop you on my camera. Rosalind Fonkwa Mujangi. Welcome to the Corporate Women in Leadership, Investor in People, Building a Strong Team. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Adeline. Thank you for having me on your show. I hope we're going to have a really good time.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm so happy I'll be tapping into your expertise today. I'll be tapping into your knowledge, your learnings, and you'll be giving back to those watching us. Please, If you're joining us now, make sure you share the link so that many or more or even much more people can join the show. So how is the weather like in London today? How is the COVID-19? How is the lockdown?
The weather's quite dull. We're working from home, so obviously not very good. But we've got to do what we have to do.
So, with regards to the COVID-19, how is the curve going on in England? Is it reducing? Is it increasing? Do you see positivity or?
I'm quite astonished at the number of deaths. It's very sad, but obviously we seem to see a decline. Yeah, it's very discouraging, but we have to find something positive out of it because we've got to look for the future, what's happening in the future.
Okay, I think you're quite right. We need to always look at the positive. So Rosalind, thank you for joining us. Let me pop in Vumi, who is dropping in from South Africa. I'm so happy when I have my South African buddies in the show. Hello, girl. How are you doing, Vumi?
Hello, ladies. How are you? Thank you so much for the birthday wishes.
I'm so happy you decided to spend your time with us today. Instead of being somewhere chillaxing, you're spending your time giving back to all the people who are joining us today. Thank you so much. We truly feel humbled.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me,
how many empowering African women.
Aha. So you see, we are in for a ride, guys. And Vumi, how is the atmosphere in South Africa? Tell me, COVID-19, how bad is that?
So it's been very difficult in South Africa at the moment. Our president addressed us yesterday. So we're a little bit more optimistic because we've got various levels. It's the first time that some of our provinces and cities are going to be open to starting to walk around. We're still very much under lockdown. So everyone's working from home. It's been difficult. It's been 48 days of pure lockdown. I think the world is aware South Africa is in the top 5 countries in performing in curbing the virus, but it's not easy at all because it's hitting us economically.
I totally can understand, and I totally can understand why you talk about economic, the economic damage that we're having. And Wumi, tell me, we're gonna right straight into our question because we want to make sure we handle some of these issues that we have. And we're talking about investing in people. And I know your background is finance. I mean, you didn't mention that in your bio, but I know you have a lot of experience in the financial sector and you do know what it means to invest in someone. Tell me in your own word, what does it mean to invest in someone?
I think investing in someone is exactly why we're seeing the world shift, right? We've always heard of human resources. And the moment you start saying resources, it means it's finite. At some point, it ends. And we've seen this shift go from human resources to human capital, which is a fundamental different exposure. Once you start talking capital, you're investing in something and you're expecting returns, which is the way I think we should be looking at people. Investing in their growth, investing where they want to find themselves, in order for us to start seeing that return on investment. So for me, investing in our people and our talent management pool is really about saying, where do they want to find themselves? How can we equip them as one of our biggest resources in essence, in order for us to see not only financial. I think COVID has shown us that, right? The moment we were at risk for losing that human capital, the world fundamentally shifted. So I think for me, investing in people is all about training, it's about empowerment, and it's about seeing our people as part of our partners, not just a finite resource that we use and get rid of.
I think that's a truly important point. I mean, when you're investing in someone, you're not looking at just investing, but you're looking at what they bring to your business in return. I mean, there are certain things that we need to consider before investing in someone. And Rosalie, what should we consider when investing in someone? What do you think we should consider?
I think it's important to look at a couple of things first. So obviously, when you have someone come to look for work, you need to look at their past history. You need to see if it's someone who has a tendency to commit to what they're doing, to their work. Yeah, so you need to look at their skills, you need to look at their strengths, you need to look at their past history, like I just said, and you need to look at the ability to grow and the ability to be adaptable. Because some people could come in with very little experience or with a very weak background. But when you look at their attitude, you look at during the interview, you identify a couple of strengths about them. You know that this person is someone who can bring out a lot of output if something is put into them. So that's why you then put in a lot of training, a lot of coaching, one-to-one supervision to help them to develop their career. So it's important to look at all these things before you actually invest. Because if you don't consider these things, you may actually find yourself investing in someone who is not really interested. And you could put all that investment and then they don't actually produce any results, or they don't really want to develop themselves. They don't want to stay in that career. They just want to make a bit of money and move on. So it's very important as employers and recruiters to look at these things before they actually decide to invest in people.
So for me, is there something you want to add in that, considering the fact that every budget in a company has to be allocated to something, and budget sometimes you have the highest in the training? Is there something you might want to add to what Rosalie has just mentioned?
No, I completely agree with Rosalind. I think the alignment of our values and seeing the people that we're hiring, are those people aligned with our values and the vision of where our company is wanting to go? That's completely critical. I completely agree with Rosalind there. Over and above that, I think we start needing to looking at people that are multi-skilled. We can no longer just hire people who can do one thing. It needs to be across the board. So for me, if we're looking at hiring people, what value can they bring monetarily? What value can they bring from a qualitative perspective? So both are critical.
I totally agree. I totally agree with both of you. But now we're talking about the COVID era. We're talking about an era where most people work from home. We're talking about an era where most people do not know how long they're going to be working from home for. We're also talking about a time where most people are discouraged. Most people are not motivated. Most people are sad. Looking at the investment that we put on people, would you say, Bumi, would you say this is the right time to invest in people? Traditionally, we know how training and development is very complicated in the corporate world. Sometimes you want, sometimes there's no budget, sometimes there's favoritism and all the things that comes with it. Would you say now is the right time to invest in people?
I personally think there's never been a greater time for us to actually start investing in people, purely because our people now, most likely, if they're anywhere across the world, because of COVID, their salaries are decreasing. So we're expecting more output out of our people with less resources. So investing in our people to make sure that we're getting our return on investment, where we're cross-skilling them, where traditionally, if we look at things like HR, where before all you were focusing on is, let's say, recruitment. Now we're expecting you to look at organizational development and learning. So in investing in our people to make sure that they're able to repurpose their skill set in order to get a greater output with more limited resources has never been more critical.
Rosalie, you mentioned just earlier, you mentioned that you need to consider the person's vision and see if the person has a background or a history of not staying put, in a particular job, jumping from one job to the other. And I've just asked me about if now is the right time. Can you tell me, Rosalie, what are some of the benefits, in investing in people at this time in particular, where we are all COVID-19, we're all scared of our money going to the drain? Why should we invest now? What are some of the benefits that we can have?
Right. I think, as Bumi said, it's really a good time to invest in people because first, people have time, they're at home working, and they can concentrate without a lot of distractions. So you can get people to do a lot more training, which could be required in the organization when things come back to normal or while we're in lockdown, obviously. Yeah. So another thing which we have to do is to make sure that staff are trained. In my field, for example, it's very important for me to ensure that my staff continue to get trained, they continue to get support, we continue to engage with them because my staff are on the front line. They're working with COVID patients, they're working with people who could potentially get COVID-19. They could potentially get COVID-19. So it's important for us to carry out trainings. For example, we have to do things like infection control, which goes across the board. Yeah, we have to provide other trainings, which allows them to know how to support people more at this time while they're at home and while they're not able to go out. So I think this is a very good time for people to get trained, for companies to invest in their staff, because they will not only be resourceful now, they will be resourceful in the future as well. They develop more new skills and they become more productive for the company and overall satisfaction for everyone.
I totally agree with you. It's about, using this opportunity to make sure your company takes the next level and the next level. Let's welcome some of the people who've joined us, and just a little shout out to those who are watching. So who is with us today? Hello, Rachel. Hello, Christian, Sagesse. Hi, hello, Jay Jr. So I want to say thank you for joining us. And please do know that the questions must not only come at the end of the session. We take questions along the way. So if you see or hear something that you feel you want to contribute or you want to ask a question, more explanation, please do feel free to do that. Let's go on our next, the next question is more about working in a team.
So I think this is a mission to go out.
Let's try and see how we can. Let's try and see how we can merge this with working in a team. We know sometimes we say some people don't fit. Before talking about merging the training and the team together, why do we train people? We've answered why we train people. How do we identify? Yeah. So maybe Vumi, you want to tell me what you think. How do we identify someone who needs to be trained?
When you start looking at who we identifying in order to be trained, there must be a skills gap, right? So this is where we see the person where they need to be. This is where we find them. So the moment we identify that skills gap, training becomes important. Over and above that, for the succession and the success of our business, we must be able to identify that this person right now is potentially in a talent pool where they're going to become an executive, they're going to become a middle manager, junior manager, or whatever it is that we're looking for them to grow within our business. Those are the people we must invest in regarding training. Remember, when we get people, even from an entry-level perspective, we get them, they've got the technical skills, they might be lacking the soft skills. So in seeing where it is that they are currently, we must identify where we need them to be. So I think in identifying skills they're training, that's where we choose that this is where they're lacking, this is where they can improve, and as such, that's what we're going to invest in by training them and upskilling them.
So, Rosalie, will you agree with that 100%, or is there something you might want to add? Which I just asked. I mean, we're just talking about identifying someone who needs to be trained, and Wumi has given a very good example. She's talking about the skills gap, talking about how to identify this skills gap, talking about the succession planning, and also getting them ready for future leadership positions. So, is there something you want to add to this?
Everything she says is right, because this is the time for employers to really invest in training for staff, because obviously they have the opportunity to see a lot of gaps, and they have an opportunity to identify staff who have weaknesses, who have strengths, and it's the best time to do it now. Yeah, so I totally agree with Wumi.
So when we're talking about workplace balance, and some of the issues that occur sometimes when you have to train someone, or when you have to train a particular team. Tell me, have you ever experienced a situation whereby you have to identify someone who needs to be trained? How does it in your typical setting? How should employees or how should staff express an interest? Because sometimes an organization might feel that they want to train this person for leadership, whereas this person is not ready to be at the top. Sometimes an organization might feel that this person lacks certain skills, whereas this person hasn't been given opportunity to actually execute or exhibit, a certain action which requires that skills. How do you think at the level of staffing, at the level of need? Because right now we're speaking to people who might want to be trained by the organization, and there's always a little bit of complication in accessing training at work. What do you think people should do in order to access training or to benefit, the training that normally comes with the company?
So for me, I think what also becomes important is your KPI discussions. So if you are having your key performance indicator discussions with your organization, it's easy for you to voice out where you're thinking you are versus where you want to be. I think the biggest challenge comes when there's a misalignment, where your organization sees you as one particular skill set, whilst you've got different career plans. So if you're not able to articulate where it is that you're wanting to go and aligning accordingly, there's a misalignment. So the organization is not willing to invest that extra funds for you. The second comes in if you are also not taking responsibility for your training. I think we're long past the time where it was the organization's responsibility to train you. We're very lucky now. We live in a knowledge-based economy. We live in the digital age where you have access to MOOCs. So you've got these mobile open courses, the likes of Coursera, the Khan Academy, Udemy. Where if you see a gap, you can take responsibility for yourself and implement your own training plan. Hi, can you hear me now?
Hello, Wumi.
Hi. I'm hoping you can hear me. Rosalind, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Wumi.
Yes. I think Adeline might not be able to hear me. I'm hoping our viewers can still hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you the same.
Okay, so I'm gonna just continue to answer the question, assuming that everyone else can hear me. Listeners, if you can hear me, I hope you can reach out. I can see them. They can't see me. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Rose, I think we're just waiting for Adeline. I think her
Yeah, it
network.
looks like it.
How are things in the UK?
Oh gosh, I would say gloomy, but we have to hope. We have to remain hopeful.
I think this entire COVID thing has completely disrupted the way we do business.
Yeah,
I think it's become
definitely.
more critical than ever to make sure that
Yeah.
we become an essential service and we add
I
value.
am back. I'm so sorry. I got lost.
Okay.
Welcome
Okay.
back.
Is it better now? I'm sorry.
Much better.
So what did I miss?
So I was
So
just saying
we're
the
still talking about
importance of
aligning workplace balance.
No, so I was just making a comment regarding that it's important that we're able to align the value where our people are wanting to bring it, what's important to them, and seeing them holistically as a business. Not just what value can we add where we put them in a box and we think that's it, but also how does it work? Because in reality, we find ourselves in the gig economy. So in the gig economy, we're now starting to sell our services and our expertise across. So it's no longer, oh, Vumi is just a financial expert, but Vumi is also a speaker or she's a coach. So how do we start taking that skill set and making it add value to where we find ourselves as an organization?
Thank you, Vumi. That ties into the benefits and how people can identify why if they want to be trained, and also why we should be able to allocate that budget for them to be trained, right? I know I lost, I kind of lost somehow because of my network, but I think this will just go on to our fifth question or our next question, which is talking about working in a team. So training and team working are closely associated. How would you link these to help promote the workplace balance? I think you've just been talking about that, right? Or did I miss it? Was that a question you were responding to a minute ago?
No, I think Rose can probably take that question.
Okay. Yeah, Rose, tell me about training and team working. Sometimes we see how people work in a team, and we kind of see a gap, in them fully integrating. I mean, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, about 15 when I was still in the, I'll just put a solo. A few years ago, when I was still working in, a 9-to-5 job, one of the complaints that my manager had was that I didn't gel with the team. So for him to say I didn't gel with the team purely meant, I didn't fit in the team. Was I in the right team? Training helped me be in that team or to perform better. What could have been done for me to gel perfectly within that team? So how do we create a balance? How do we create a balance while working in a team? Rosalie, is this something you want to get a go at?
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so I think what you've said is quite important. The fundamental thing for every team to work perfectly is training. That's like the foundation. Once you've done the foundation that covered things like effective communication, health and safety, equality and diversity, and many other trainings, it kind of set boundaries and everyone tends to know their role and their responsibilities. So this kind of empowers the staff going into teams, knowing what their roles and responsibilities are, what the boundaries are, what the company's objectives are, what they must do, what they mustn't do, they mustn't discriminate, they must treat everyone equally. So everything they get from the training gives them a base as they go into the team. I think the next thing to move on to once they've received that training to empower them to do their works effectively in teams is follow-up, supervision, one-to-one coaching, mentoring, identifying what their strengths and their weaknesses are, and also doing competency assessments, whether the trainings they did is actually being applied to work. Because some people do training and they don't actually apply it to work, so it defeats the whole purpose. Then it could actually destroy the dynamics of the team. So let's say we train on effective communication and the staff are not able to express that. It shows that they haven't actually understood the training and they're not putting it into practice. That's why we end up having these breakdowns in communication. So this is why, as employers, to have this balance is important, to take the extra mile to provide one-to-one with the staff. Let them say what their feelings are, what their fears are, because they could actually have fears which they didn't necessarily express during their training. So a supervision forum, mentoring one-to-one forum, competency assessment enables us to be able to find out what difficulties they're experiencing. So once we're able to address these difficulties, identify what the problems are, we could either then decide a plan for them, an individual plan for them. So it could be moving them into another team that meets their needs based on what we've assessed. It could be on moving them to do another skill which they feel more competent in doing. So it's about really merging both, merging the training, the follow-up on whether they've understood and they're able to perform what they've done on training, and supporting them ongoing in their career development and in their personal development as well. So it's also important for us as employers to identify what we are doing. We need to assess what we do to see whether it's effective, whether it's bringing in the desired results on the employee. Because a lot of companies, unfortunately, sidetrack employees. And when this is done, the employee feels alienated. They can't feel as part of the team. So there's a lot of work for not only the employees, not only the team players, but the employers themselves to contribute in making sure that the balance is right and you have happy employees and happy customers.
Thank you, Rosaline. I think I'm gonna miss most of the show today because of we had issue with our network. So we had issue with our cable team. So they're trying to fix it this morning. So I think it's not yet properly done. For me, when we talk about building a strong team, which is our next question, how do we build an efficient, effective, and a winning team? How would you do it? I know you're very engaged in training and development, and everything that has to do with leadership, upskilling. How would you do it? What are some of the things you would take into consideration when you're building such a team?
I think the first is hiring someone who can fit into the culture of the organization. A lot of us hire purely for expertise and we don't look at culture. I remember my former CEO at Investec always said that I hire someone who's got the right attitude. The rest I can teach them from a skill set perspective. So one, hire for a cultural fit. The second is invest, exactly like Rosalind said quite aptly, it's all about investing in that person's particular training. The third is we find ourselves in a global world. So it's all about diversity. So if you're hiring people who fit into the culture, who are diverse, and who are willing to learn, those three become critical in building the correct teams. If you understand the culture of the organization, no matter where you are in the globe, I've had those challenges, building a team in Nigeria, building a team in Rwanda, building a team in Southern Africa. The cultures across the continent are fundamentally different, but we hired people who fit into our culture, who can give it that local flavor and still adhere to our global standards. So for me, that's important. The second is, how do you start communicating effectively? Which is where I think a lot of organizations right now are under a lot of pressure, because we're used to that face-to-face, sort of feeling the energy in the room, which is now different. Now you've got to start building relationships with people you've never met across a screen. So it's really about how do you train your people to communicate effectively, have a clear objective and clear understanding as to what it is that's required of them in order to, one, fit into the culture, secondly, to really perform across the globe with their competitors.
Thank you, Bumi. You think about positioning them and giving them opportunity to gain the skills that they need in order to be competitive in the global market, isn't it? Now, tell me, have you ever been in a position whereby you're training a member of your team and they're finding it so difficult to retain and obviously to execute what you want them to do purely because they've not been adequately trained, whereas you know that you've spent so much time training them? Have you been in that position, and how did you deal with it?
Yes, I've definitely been in that position. So I used to, prior to my starting my own business and doing it full time, I used to run strategy and operations for Vodafone for Africa. And the cultural nuances and differences were immense. So I found myself having trainings with people in one part of the continent, thinking I walked away clear, but having misunderstood the cultural differences, where I'm seen as the reporting manager. So they feel very uncomfortable and insecure to say, Bumi, I actually don't understand what it is that you're saying. So what I found, which became very critical, is understanding the learning styles of my team. Is it visual? Is it auditory? Is it written? How do they best learn? That was my first learning. The second was reinforcing. So what we like to do as organizations is, I've sent you on training, good luck. And that doesn't suffice. It's what happens post that. Is there continued learning to make sure that they're now up to par? So what I started doing is pairing them with different people who are experts in that field. So allowing for the training to occur, for post-training coaching, but also for peer-to-peer learning. So even when I'm not there as the manager or the trainer, the learning continues, and having open lines of communication. We leverage things like WhatsApp, where it was on a weekly basis. What challenges are you finding? So it made it easier for us to have metrics to see how they're actually performing and what challenges organically come up.
I think that's a very that's something to take home with. I mean, I never thought about it like that, but the way you put it, it's so easy to understand, so perfect, and I think it's not just you're not just referring or speaking to organizations, but you're also speaking to those people being trained, because sometimes they don't understand why they are being trained. They don't understand that they are being trained because you, as an employer, or you as a manager, wants them to fill a certain gap. So they don't take it into consideration. Let's see if we have a few questions, and then we'll come back to our last two questions. Now we've got Faiza, who is asking about investing in your staff. Is investing in your staff only limited to training? Is it only limited to training? So what other things would you invest in your staff? So anybody can pick that up. Rosalie, you want to have a go?
Okay. Yeah. I think training is just one of the things you do when you're investing in your staff. The other things you have to do is obviously providing them support, providing incentives when they do well. And the incentives would also encourage the other employees to actually do better. So you provide training, you provide learning opportunities, you provide things like vouchers to encourage staff. You provide things like carer of the month, well, that's what I call it anyway. Yeah, employee of the month. And you provide one-to-one support. You provide being there for your employees. They should be able to know that you as an employer, you're there to listen to them, have a culture of transparency, and say exactly what they feel. And they don't feel embarrassed to express their feelings, because if you don't have that structure which is transparent and open, a lot of staff will not be able to come out and tell you how they feel, and that way they feel not supported. So this is an important aspect of investing in your employees. So Wumi, do you have something else to add?
I don't think I could have said it better, Rose. I think that's very, very critical. It's not just about purely training. It's about creating a culture where our staff feel empowered to learn. That's the first thing for me. I think the second thing is also bringing global practice and opportunities. So, I'm very keen on people learning and sharing their local learnings with other people. What I've seen with my staff, when we have our Pan-African endeavors, where someone in Nigeria is saying, this is what's worked well in our community and in our country, and we can actually replicate the same thing in another country. So if you're looking at Nigeria, where you've got hundreds of millions of people, some of our best learnings have come from there that we've been able to implement in countries that are a little bit smaller, like Botswana, where it's about 5 million people. So creating platforms where your people feel empowered and can communicate is also a means of investing. And I think the most important thing, I think Simon Sinek said it well, when he said you need to be able to articulate your why. So by understanding both your employees' why and your corporate's why, that's a form of investment in aligning and making sure that we're walking the journey together.
Yeah. Another, investing on employee engagement. Oh, did you lose me there? Yeah. So investing on employee engagement. So getting the employees involved in the decisions of the company. So things like if you're having meetings, you get them to have an input into what they want discussed in the meeting. When you do things like newsletters, you get them involved so that they feel part of the organization. They feel that they've been valued. They feel that they've been listened to. They feel that they've been taken seriously. So it's really important for employee engagement to be practiced in an organization so that staff can actually feel that they've been invested on.
No, I completely agree with you there. I think the historical thing of we only care about our shareholders is now archaic. We need to start looking at our employees as both key stakeholders, but also key partners, because our employees also allow us to gather some intel as to our actual target audience, how they feel, how they're experiencing the world, and take that data to be able to adjust ourselves as an organization to serve a world that's not just worried about the bottom line, but also is aware of what all our stakeholders are interested in.
Yeah,
have we lost Edwin again?
Yeah, so
I think that makes
training. It's about investing on all the other elements that make the
that makes proper sense. Taking it to a global context. So it's about value, isn't it? It's about more value to the staff, and it's not just about the financial incentive. But it's about the emotional support that you give them. It's about the little things that you make them feel happy, that you make them feel valued. On again. It's back.
Yes. So
let me connect with my phone. I'm so sorry, guys.
I'm not sure. Oh, there we can hear you.
Okay.
I'm just connecting again on my phone.
So we're hoping we were able to give an answer to the gentleman who asked a question about if investing in people is just on training.
Yeah, I think her next question was, how do you build a strong, efficient, and winning team at work? I think, has she asked that?
So say that again with me.
How do you build a strong, efficient, effective, and winning team at work?
Okay.
I think we've answered that.
Did we answer that?
I think we did.
Do you want to answer that? Yeah. So
okay, I think the last. So the question is, how do you build a strong, efficient, effective, and winning team at work?
Okay, obviously, one of the things which we've been talking about is obviously training, investing in training, and ensuring that the training has been effective and it's been rolled on. Yeah, and another thing is obviously about identifying people's strengths and their weaknesses, to support them in career development and support them where they have weaknesses. Yeah, and it's important to also have a strong team, work on making sure that we have teams that are able to work effectively, they're able to deliver, they're able to be very productive, and they're able to bring back good customer feedback, because in services where we provide services to customers, it's important that we get feedback from these customers. So once we got this feedback from the customers, we're able to work with our various employees and make sure that we support them in the areas where there's probably shortcomings. And this definitely helps us to build stronger teams. And we also identify which employees work best together. When we see which ones work best together, we set them goals, we support them with career development, we support them with their own personal aspirations. Some people don't want career development, they may want something else. So it's about really working very closely with our teams, communicating with our employees, having this platform we've been talking about, which promotes effective communication, and really being there regularly to provide ongoing monitoring, ongoing support, regular on-site, off-site supervisions, and just supporting them on their way to whatever they aspire.
Thank you, Rosalind. I think my network is truly crappy today, but
No,
I'm sure. I mean, from
Rose,
feedback
can you
that I'm
hear
having
me?
from.
Yes, I can hear you. Don't worry, Adeline, we'll write it on.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, I love the writing on. I love the writing on, and I feel you girls are managing the platform pretty well without me. Please, if I disappear, just keep rolling, and you do have the questions. You can move on to the next and on to the next. But one question,
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking a lot about training and working. One question I want to throw at you girls is, Bumi, I know you've run your own company for almost 5 years now, and before that, you were doing consultancy. And you were also working full-time in corporate, in corporate institution. Rosalind, I know you have your company now for almost 15 years. What do you do with those who come, train, and leave? How do you deal with that?
I'll let Bumi go first.
Okay, Bumi, go on. How do you deal with the staff that you invest so much money, so much emotion, so much time? How do you deal with it? Okay, now Rosalind,
Okay.
the ball is in your court.
Right,
shall I go on?
Shall I go then?
Yes.
Right. Okay, yeah. It's very sad. Yeah, it's obviously very sad because you've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources. But then again, it is what it is. If people want to move on, they have to move on. We have a responsibility to just make sure that we put in the best we can put in them to be productive, not only for themselves, for us as well. So the way I look at it is, if I empowered you through training and coaching to get better in your career, then I've done something good. But like I said, it's not always the best situation.
So have you ever been in a position where you spot when someone want to leave, and if you've been in that position as a manager or somebody who owns their own business, and you realize that you've trained a staff on top skills, and you suspect that they're about to leave the company because you've heard or you found out that they're prospecting elsewhere, how do you deal with a situation like that? Have you been in that situation where you have to deal with that?
Yes, I mean, obviously, in our businesses, we have to deal with it all the time. But obviously, it's very important to be very alert when you kind of hear that an employee who's received that kind of knowledge, skills, training is planning to leave. Because there are two things. You would have employees who would just go with whatever you've given them in terms of knowledge and skills and expertise. And you have employees who would want to move on with your personal information. They would want to move with your clients. They would want to move with your documentation. So it's always a very difficult one to balance. So you find yourself waiting for the day when the information will drop from the person, and also trying to protect your information from going out and your clients from going with this person. So it's a very difficult balance, which unfortunately we have to deal with, I mean, as we go along in the business. But then again, what can you do?
So for me,
yeah.
What can you do? There's nothing you can do in a situation like that. For me, have you got some, you want to add, we're just talking about staff who come on board and they're being trained to have top skills, and then they live with it. In certain circumstances, you've heard from the Vibe line that from the Vine line that they're about to go, and how do you deal with with a situation whereby a staff that you've trained is leaves you? How do you deal with it?
I think that's always a fundamental risk, right? So if you are investing in someone, their ability to leave with some of your intellectual property, some of your global best practices, and then start their own organizations. I think that's always a fundamental risk. I think what becomes important for me is in looking at that staff turnover is, what is the feedback we're getting? Are we hiring incorrectly? Are we not creating a culture where people want to stay? So for me, even with my staff, even in my own organization, I've had people want to leave me. And it's always, that exit interview is important. It's critical because it's allowing us to gather data. It's letting us know what is it that we can improve from our side, process-wise, culture-wise, feedback-wise, to improve people wanting to leave our organization. So I think for me, that becomes important. I've seen organizations who fundamentally shifted the way they do business, where people were leaving purely because you are sticking to 9 to 5. And the culture now is flexibility. And just by shifting that, the staff turnover shot up to less than 10%. So for me, if you're seeing that as an organization, it's feedback for you as to what can you learn from, what can you improve. Because the times of being hierarchical and almost arrogant to say, I'm giving you a job, it doesn't suffice anymore. These people are bringing their skill set. You are exchanging that for remuneration. So it's a two-way street. Before, organizations interviewed people. Now we interview each other to see, is this the right cultural fit? So I think for me, it's really a feedback gathering exercise.
Wow, that's a powerful addition to what Rosie said. Let me just welcome some of the people who've joined us and see if we have some comments. Thank you, Emperor G. Bus, for joining us. Thank you, Feza, for your question. Hello, Juliet. Thank you for joining. Okay, I think I have Terence Achu, who says, hello, I'm here. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. First time ever. And unfortunately, you're here when my network is really crappy. So I kind of, but I'm happy the ladies are handling this subject, hands down. We're talking about training and development, investing in people and building a strong, efficient team. So Terence is saying we need to encourage more women into the field of IT and technology. Exactly. We truly need to encourage more women into this department. A few weeks ago, we had a topic on this, on IT, and this is a topic that I would love to bring back in the game. Vumi, remember I had to call you in South Africa and ask you to recommend a woman. It was so difficult, Terence, to look for women in IT, strong women in IT. And I couldn't find any. I asked my friend Vumi all the way in South Africa, and I said, Vumi, please, you need to get me a powerful woman in IT, because I want us to handle this topic. So that one is going to be done. Hi, Florence, thanks for joining us. Eunice, thanks for joining us. Stephen has a question. Stephen Fuzzy, thank you so much for joining us. Almost every employee have the same why. I think I'd like you to expatiate a little bit on that question, because I might suspect the angle that you want us to discuss, but I think I'd like you to give us a little angle towards the why. Hi, Eno Eunice, thank you for joining us. And yes, the network is truly crappy today. Remember a few days ago, I was telling you about my network being truly crappy. So it's still crappy. And Rosalind Eunice is confirming that that's a good one. Identifying people's strengths and weakness and supporting their growth is truly important. She also mentioned that customer feedback, so true, helps in building the team. And Juliet is just saying that the network in Cameroon is really not a good one. And Karen has a question. How do you manage? Okay, Vumi is back. Vumi, how do you manage esprit de corps among your team? Karen, please, what is esprit de corps? Vumi, do you know what esprit de corps is?
I'm really hoping so. I'm waiting for my French-speaking friends to help me. Esprit spirit. This is not good.
I think it's team spirit. I think esprit de corps is team spirit, isn't it?
Oh.
So how do you manage team spirit amongst your staff? Because sometimes there are certain staff who are so demotivated. do the other one. You Google it.
I've
What
just
does it
Googled it.
mean?
It says, esprit de corps says, a feeling of pride and mutual loyalty shared by members of a group.
Oh.
A
Okay.
feeling of pride and mutual
Pride.
loyalty shared by, I think it's in line with team.
Okay. So mutual loyalty. So we're talking about loyalty. So how do you manage this loyalty amongst your team? You know, so that's what Karen would like to know. Anybody want to give a go on that?
Can I give a go on that one?
Okay.
Yes.
For me, we must always, and this is something I believe people join organizations for the brand and the potential opportunity. People leave organizations because of bad bosses. So for me, it's about, as a manager, as a boss, as a leader, how are you investing in knowing the needs of your team? I think we all know Mr. Gary Zukav's a book about the 5 love languages. So look at the 5 languages, how we express and find affection is fundamentally different. So I did it with my teams, where I want to know, is this person interested in words of affirmation and being praised publicly? Is this person interested in acts of service? Is this person wanting just a gift voucher? They don't care if people acknowledge it or not. So by starting to learn your team and creating a culture of intimacy, even within a large organization, that drives that. It also helps when you know your why. I saw someone's comment saying that as employees, our whys are always the same. And I disagree with that. For me, your why can range from, I'm here to gain experience. Your why can range from, I'm here to gather networks. The whys are fundamentally different. So if you know the whys and how your employees are actually motivated and driven, it allows you as a leader to personalize your leadership style to them. So you do it at an individual level, then at a team level, and then even at a wider range at an organizational level. So I think if you're attacking it from all 3 levels, it allows you to then have an esprit de corps, as she said so eloquently, that really, really is united and really, really does create a culture for your specific leadership style.
Rosie, do you want to add to that, or was that perfectly described?
I totally agree with Wumi.
Okay, I think we have another question. Thank you for me. I think that is very, very on point, because you take all these and you put together. You don't just look at one angle. You don't just look at where you want to go as an organization, but you look at where your staff or your employees want to go. Mm-hmm. You also look at how they behave amongst themselves and the kind of things that they do as a team. And if there's any lacking, any shortcoming, as Rosie was saying, then you now bring all these different skill sets that needs to be developed and get them going. So let's look at Stephen, who is asking the question: should everyone in the company be motivated by the same core purpose of the company? So this is something that sometimes I ask myself as a boss. Thank you, Stephen, for asking this question. Sometimes I ask myself as a manager or as a business owner, I ask myself, should everyone, be motivated the same core purpose? So, but let me hear from you what you think about this question. So,
okay, should I have a go?
Let me hear from you, Rosie.
Yeah, I think ideally, I would like everyone to be motivated by that. But it's important that we acknowledge, like Wumi said, rightly said, each employee comes into a company asking questions, wanting to know about the questions. Do I really want to work for them? So it's important that we kind of see that it's on both ends. Yeah, so if the employee is actually motivated by something else in the company, we have to identify that, and we have to see if we're able to meet that need, support them towards that need. But ideally, there should be a big element of the company's core principles which comes into place.
So I think, Stephen, that answers your question. But Wumi might also have something to add to that. Should everyone be motivated by the company's the company's purpose? Should everyone be driven by the company's purpose?
I think it's excessive to think that everyone should definitely be driven by it, but I think people should feel a resonance with it. For me, if you look at a company's purpose and most importantly its values, some of them, if not most of them, should align to you. Not everything is always going to align to you. It really becomes the case of, oh, this majority of this aligns to me, I'm comfortable here. Because I think it's usually, if you're the founder of that company, its purpose, its values will always 100% align with you. So if you look at a large company like Coca-Cola, AB InBev, Google, it's impossible that hundreds of thousands of employees all will say this is what drives me solely. If you are able to give your employees a platform where their why is able to be expressed, it helps. Some best practice we've seen in the likes of one of my former employees, like First National Bank in South Africa. It's an African financial institution, which has been named over 3 times the most innovative bank in the world. Innovation might not necessarily be my core value, but what they encourage is you take on a project that speaks to you as an individual and you run with it. So I think if we're able to create those sort of platforms where our employees feel inspired and are able to participate in a framework, even though it doesn't drive them, I think we have a healthy culture as an organization.
Wow, I think I totally agree with you. I agree with you, because right now the corporate goals, have changed. Back in the days, we need to have we used to have one direction. This is where we want to go. But right now, what you're saying, I will translate it to something else, something very similar. This is giving your staff or your employees, I'll say mine, for example, I will speak up to my staff and I'll tell them, see, I am happy to sponsor whatever project you want to bring on board. I am happy to give you the proceeds, that you make from this project. If this is a project that's going to give money to you, I, as a business, I would like to have maybe 30% of whatever money you're making, and you have 70%. But as long as what you're trying to do does not conflict with what we're trying to do, and as long as it does not take you away from your major responsibilities in the company, then we are happy to support you. We are happy to sponsor you. We are happy to actually put in the finances to let you roll with it. So as you say, Coca-Cola or Google, they have tens and thousands of people that they employ, and it is not very realistic to say everybody must truly be aligned with what they want. I think Terence will want to have the name of the book. Vumi, you mentioned a book, The 5 Languages of the five. I think he'll want to know the
love languages. The book is called The 5 Love Languages. I might excuse myself to go get the book. It's in my library. So you can see it. It's in purple.
Well, okay. So while you're going to pick up the book, let us welcome those who join us with yeah. If you're just joining us, she's back with the book.
So this is the book. It is by Dr. Gary Chapman. It's called The 5 Love Languages.
So Terence, are you okay with the book? Have you had okay? So I think we can send him a message after this with the with the topic or the title, so that he can. I'll just hide that as well, so that he can have a full grasp. Now let's look at the tools. Let's look at the tools of the tools that we need in order to effectively create a strong team. What are some of the tools that you've used in the past, and how has it worked for you? Let's start with you, Rosemary. I'll just pull down the question from. Yeah, we're just talking about the tools, training and development tools that people use. What are some of the tools that you've used in the past? The question is the most important tools needed for effective teamwork in a workplace.
Okay, so in my organization, one of the tools I've used a lot is the Enneagram. So it's one of the oldest personality testing. So I always try to seek to have people very diverse from me. So the more different you are from my personality type, from my thinking personality type, the better for me. Because it means that the value and the richness of your thinking will allow for robust debate. So the Enneagram for me is a tool that I've used in looking at hiring. The second tool for me that's been critical in my organization is KPI, so key performance indicators, where we've got clear guidelines as to what it is that we're trying to achieve as an organization, as a team, and what it looks like in the short term, medium term, and long term. I think it's very difficult, I've found, for people to feel inspired in working if they don't know what is the why. What's important to you, and what portion do you play in the value chain and the implications of you not fulfilling? People are very keen to fulfill their part if they realize the ramifications of both their success and their failures. So those are the two tools I think have worked well in my organization.
Thank you very much. For me, maybe Rosaline, you want to add a little bit for what are the tools that you think we need for effective teamwork?
So like Wumi, I use KPIs as well, and I found that really quite effective. Then I use a lot of employee engagement. That has really worked for me because a lot of my staff work on the field. I've got staff who work in the office, but a lot of them work on the field. And it's very difficult managing people who work on the field. So it's been very important for me to enhance my employee engagement, for my staff to be able to really feel connected to the office and to what we really want to achieve. So these have really helped me to get the staff to feel that they belong to the goals of the organization and to meeting the needs of my customers. It's helped me to get a team who really understands that customer satisfaction and showing out the name of the company, it's very important. So this has really helped me, and I think so far it's a very strong tool which it's working very well for my organization.
Thank you, Rosalie. We have two questions which are all addressed to Wumi. Wumi, there are specific technical skills we need to focus on to remain productive and work effectively remotely during this period. Are there any specific technical skills that we need to focus on?
I definitely think so. So I think that some key things are time management has never become more critical. And I think it's not just only technical skills, obviously being able to be comfortable with IT. We've seen how IT has even failed us now in the call. So even knowing, okay, I'm living in Africa at the moment, I need to have various SIM cards just to be able to engage in case one fails me. So getting a little bit technologically exposed is critical. The second for me is soft skills, like being able to articulate yourself, being able to say your thoughts in a way where people are able to engage you, being able to build relationships and rapport, which now I've been advising some of my clients, setting up those virtual coffees, engaging with people in a manner where before you could just walk to their desk. So how do you start leveraging technology to actually build intimate relationships that you can continue going forward? I think those are very critical, specifically when we are working remotely, because remember, people still do business with people. Organizations are just really big structures where people engage with people. After it's all said and done, even in this lockdown, we've seen how people have been yearning for that intimacy. We've seen tribes popping up everywhere because people still want to engage with people.
Another question for you. What soft skills will be essential to develop as an employee to remain relevant at work during this period? I want to know that as well. Please tell me, what soft skills should employees, develop to remain relevant?
For me, from a soft skill perspective, relationship building is critical. Relationship building is important, but beyond relationship building, relationship maintenance. So it's not a case of networking, and you're not keeping up the relationship. Take the time out in your busy schedule to invest in that relationship. I think secondly, also see where your particular industry is going. If you're able to see where your industry is going, I think the World Economic Forum is a fantastic tool that we can take a look at. We all know that the future skills of work are things like creativity, community, communication. So if you're battling with those top 3 skills, you already should be worried about your job security, because being able to articulate those skills in a manner that brings value to your organization, beyond just value, also now more critically bringing bottom line to your organization, being able to market what it is that you do and doing that effectively is what's going to secure your role in the future.
Wow. So in case you're listening, in case you're following up, please do take it really seriously, because at this
Yeah.
point, I feel every staff, every employee, every consultant needs to show that their services or their skills or there's a need for them. We must stay relevant. We truly must stay
Definitely.
relevant. Rosalind, was there something you wanted to add with it, or do you
No, I
think you
think,
covered it
yeah, I think
well?
Wumi is quite
Perfect.
right. Everybody, every staff really needs to make themselves relevant now, because, I mean, in this lockdown, a lot of things have changed. For example, my company normally runs from an office. I was very worried when my building shut down because of the lockdown. But I actually find that I work more effectively from home, and I don't even need as many staff. So if I have a member of staff who doesn't prove to be relevant enough, then there's really no need for me to keep them. So that's why this is a time where employees have to make sure they make themselves relevant. They learn new skills. They kind of go back to the employees and say, this is the extra thing I can bring to the organization. So that way, an employee actually finds the relevance of keeping an employee. So I think, yeah, that's just what I've got to add.
So let me read some comments, which I think is quite interesting. I want to read this comment from Eno Eunice. I think no amount of culture, I mean, this will go back to what Bumi was saying. No amount of culture, flat hierarchy, motivation put in place, etc. When people want to leave, they still will. So either because they want to begin their own business, which of course is everyone's dream otherwise. As a manager, I think after all the formation elements, there should be some legal part to play. If one company has to invest so much on an employee, then there should be some sort of contractual terms to make them stay for some time in order to reap from the investment. I totally agree with you, especially as a small business. I mean, Rosalind, you agree with that. It is so important. I mean, I think she's commenting based on the question which we asked about people wanting to leave, and I think that is so valid.
Yeah.
And she was reading the book, and Mimi gave a comment on building a team. She just agree with you both ladies that KPIs is one of the best way to measure growth and improve team. That is true. And Eunice also say putting the two speakers together makes it just perfect. And G-Class is like, well done, ladies. And another technique that came in is from Mimi. 3D feedback model is very effective too. That is very HRA. So 3D feedback model is very effective. I have to look into that because I've never used it before.
Yeah.
So I'll try and look at that and see how I can use that on my team as well. And she also continues soliciting positive and negative feedbacks from people you work with on an ongoing basis is very important. Very, very important. Daniel says he wants to ask a question. So he's asking the question. There's a tendency to be sidelined by your employer when they realize that you have outgrown your time with them or looking to move on. How do you manage resigning in a company with such a boss? Okay, let me repeat the question. There's a tendency to be sidelined by your employer when they realize that you have outgrown your time with them or looking to move on. How do you manage resigning in a company with such a boss? So I think we need to, Daniel, you will need to rephrase it. You can write in French and I'll translate, okay? Because I know I can see some French creeping in that one. And then Mimi is also adding, not waiting for your partners to complain before addressing situations that might lead to a negative feedback. If you catch it quick, you can address it before it gets out of hand. I totally agree with that. So while we are waiting for, we just have a few more minutes to go, about 5 more minutes to go, but let's put one of our videos, just a 2-minute videos, and then we can take the last few questions and then we can round up. So there we go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
So for me,
Sinyagi pombe lancha leo.
well, I know she missed the first video.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, so
Bizu, bizu. Thank you so much,
so
lady.
the entire team thought of you, and they said, Madam, give her 1.5 hours to be on the show. I think we truly need to appreciate her. So they came up with this. I was even surprised. So when I saw it back in, I was like, okay.
Thank you so much to you and your team. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. So let's do the last few questions. Okay. We just have some more birthday wishes from you. Mimi says, happy birthday, Powerhouse.
Thank you, Mimi.
And Eno, you need to say happy birthday, girl. And corporate women in leadership, of course, happy birthday. And Eunice is like, thanks for me and Rosalind for this interesting and educative insight. I learned a lot. Thank you so much. Now, is there something final, Rosalind, if you want to say something definite to someone, what will it be based on the topic, investing in people, team working? What will it be? What is your key words or key message?
Right. My key message first to employees is to obviously work with their employers. And for employers, it's most importantly to invest in their staff on training, on coaching, on ongoing support, on career development, on getting them involved in everything. And for employees, is also to be able to engage with their employers, work with the employers, be transparent and open with the employers, and accept the support the employer is giving them, and tell the employer where they think the support is not working as effectively for them or not. So I would encourage all managers to really take the investing in people seriously, because not doing that leads to a decline in productivity. It leads in very unhappy employees and very bad organizational culture. So that's really my advice to them.
All righty. Thank you, Rosalie. It was so wonderful to have you on the show. And thank you, ladies, for truly standing. You know, when we started, I didn't know I was going to end this session because of my network issues. So let's see. Vumi, birthday girl, what is the key message you're leaving out today?
I think for me, it's as organizations, whether we're small to medium-sized enterprises or we're corporate organizations, we must remember we can't reap what we haven't sown. So if we haven't invested in our employees, we can't expect the best quality of work from them. So by empowering them through trainings, workshops, masterclasses, coaching, those are tools to empower employees so we can reap the best from them. The second, as employees, is for us to remember, you are the CEO of your career. You are responsible for making sure that you are the best version of you, because whatever you bring to your organization is your competitive edge. So if you're not investing in it, if you're not trying to look at yourself from a global perspective, you will be limited in your own career growth. You're the CEO. Invest as much as you can in yourself.
Wow. I think I like that you're the CEO of yourself.
Yes, of yourself.
So if your career is going down, that is all your fault. I mean, this brings me to a conversation I had with one of my friend, and she was like, "Oh, you didn't make me do this." We can never say you didn't make me do this, because you can you always need to look for different ways to make things happen for you. Because at the end of the day, this is about you. The time I was invest in putting this together, it's not the same time that you put for this to happen, because at the end of the day, you are you. So we have a few more comments which I want to read before. Mimi, ladies, this quarantine is making me think. I have been so facilitated by the different Facebook live shows targeting women. It is about time we show the world what the world steadily know we are working with. Great job, ladies. I'm so happy. I mean, knowing that you are also from, top management position in your company and you have a HR background, you truly appreciating these sessions that we're hosting all the time. I truly appreciate, Mimi. Thank you so much. And Danielle says, happy birthday, Mrs. Vumi. May God always open many doors for you, protect you, and watch over your family. Amen to that.
Amen and amen. I receive it.
And ladies, let's write our stories by ourselves. We must stop letting others write a narrative.
Yes,
exactly.
Definitely.
That's what we're talking about.
Definitely.
That is what we're talking about. Thank you so much, ladies. I truly appreciated your support, and the fact that, Vumi, you were able to come here, talk for 1.5 hours, taking that time. Truly appreciate all the things that you've said. What we're going to do in the next few weeks is going to summarize most of the things that you've said into point form, which we'll be sharing on this platform. So invite as many people as possible to follow the conversation, because this video is going to be here permanently. We're also going to put it on our YouTube channel, so you can also join. We have one last comment that came in. Wow, I like this. If the leadership is bad, it drops down to your team. Go, ladies. I'm enjoying the conversation. Thank you so much. Another powerhouse, G-Class, CFI, powerhouse, great manager. Thank you for your comments. And I think I will be seeing you again, Vumi, because we are looking at another session in some of the areas that I know you're very, very strong in. So we'll be calling on you. And I hope when we knock on your door,
of course, I'm always available. If you call, I answer.
I know. Thank you so much, darling. I'm going to kick you off the studio.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your experience with us. Always a wonderful time having you on anything that we do, because value that you add,
Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you. I'll kick you out now. And Dare, Adeline, I hope this is not the end. When is the next session? Hi, Dare. Every Thursday, 3 p.m., we are here. So every Thursday, we are here. If you go back, back last 4 Thursday, you will see we've covered a lot of sessions. We've covered sessions on developing core skills during lockdown. We've covered sessions on depression, mental work at work, because right now many people work from home. So there are a lot of things going on, psychological effects of working from home. We've covered quite a lot. So I'm going to send you all the link. Ashley was going to send you all the link, then you can take your time and watch. And please do invite others to join us next. So let me round up. Thank you once more for joining us. It's always a pleasure hosting this session, because I do learn. I do learn a lot each time I host this session. Our main purpose for the Corporate Women in Leadership is to make sure people take their careers to the next level. There are a lot of support and tools out there for the business women, businessmen, but there are very few conversations that truly targets the corporate world, that targets these little people, or these people who are looking at changing. Next week, we'll be looking at different things. We're looking at work-life balance and how you can actually balance, your work and your life. We know sometimes it gets really daunting trying to manage, or it can get depressing, it can get stressful, but we'll be doing that next week. So please do make sure you join us next week. Same time, same place. Thank you so much, Florence. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to love you. I'm going to leave you. And I'm going to end the broadcast now. It's been Corporate Women in Leadership. And see you next week. Bye.